Okay, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you are on East Coast. My name is Chunhua Liao, and I'm the current president of Silicon Valley Chinese Association Foundation. I'm actually also one of the three co-founders of this organization. We started this organization more than 10 years ago and still going strong, hopefully. And this year we started this an AI4Legislation and competition. Okay, I should go through this slide first. Yeah, and of course, for any organization, there's some kind of mission statement, and our mission statement actually is really to empower our communities and through and events like this, education, innovation. So I think traditionally, Chinese Americans are not really into civic fair or politics events, but I think we should change that to be more integrated into California and the USA. So that's why this organization was started to change that. And we have several focus areas, as you can see, very typical and focuses like organizations like us. But something new this year is really to inspire AI solutions for legislative processes. And I think for people who have been following us, you should have heard about this competition, all the deadlines here, and some tentative categories. And we do have some initial money put into this project. And so if you are really good, so here's $3,000 for the team or the individual participants if you are a single person team. And we have a few other awards like 2,000, 1,000 each. We are accepting donations, so we may have more money, but you never know. And we do have a GitHub repository with more information here. And this actually also linked with our into our official website. And today's seminar actually is the fourth seminar of this project. And all our seminars are recorded and put on YouTube and linked to our official website. And we are very excited to have like four speakers today. And I will pause a little bit and switch to the speakers. So each speaker, please briefly introduce yourself. And who wants to go first?
Hello, I'm Alex, and I'm a rising junior at Emerald High School in Dublin, California. And I've been coding for about 4 to 5 years now, focusing on a personal project that I'm using for this AI for legislation competition and focusing on attending hackathons and competing.
Next.
Okay, I can go next. I'm also a rising junior at Emerald High School, which is in Dublin. I've been coding for about 2 to 3 years now, and I'm mainly focused on a project that we're doing for this competition, alongside also doing research on large language models for civics and philosophy.
You can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Sanjana Gowda. I'm also a rising junior at Emerald High School, and I'm helping out on this debate sim project and doing machine learning on the side myself. And I've also been attending hackathons and other computer science related things like Girls Who Code at my school. So yes, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jain. I'm also a rising junior at Emerald High School. I've been coding for about 3 years now, and this summer I've been mainly focusing on AI and machine learning, and I'm definitely helping out on this debate sim project.
Hi, I'm Arnav Kakani. I'm also a rising junior. I've been coding for around 4 or 5 years as well, and I am also at Emerald High School, and I am the treasurer of the programming club there, and as well as helping with debate sim and doing a bunch of research on AI and ML.
Wonderful. So I think I only have one last slide just to show some important links or email or web addresses. We also have our own Discord link. So if you are interested in our competition, want to connect to like those wonderful students, so people like on the call, please join our Discord community. Okay, and I will switch gear. So now it's the speakers show. So Alex or any other speakers, you can go ahead.
You want a full screen? Okay. All right, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we'll be going over different AI coding tools and finding different strengths in each coding tool, and you can kind of see which tool fits your task the best. So our presenters today are Alex Liao, Arnav Kakani, Sanjana Gowda, Jain, and Mrinal Agarwal.
Okay, before we dive into the 6 different AI tools, let's talk about why it matters. AI can help beginners learn and write code, however, also do a wide variety of other tasks. But here's the catch. No single tool does it all. Different AI tools shine in different scenarios. Some are better at explaining, giving context or IDE integration, and some are really good at debugging or even reviewing code. So there's no one size fits all. Today, we're going to explore 6 different tools and run 2 coding challenges, both easy and hard prompts.
So what are the tools we're looking at? So we determined 6 different tools that we identified as key tools being used in today's world. The first being GPT-4o, which is the question and answer and debugging powerhouse. Then we have GitHub Copilot, which is known for its real-time in IDE completion. Tab 9, which is a privacy-first autocomplete. Claude Code, which generates clear, readable code. Olema by Meta, which is a local open source model. And Cursor, which is known as an all-in-one AI code editor and IDE.
All right, so to evaluate each of these tools, we have the following criteria that we are grading them on. First is interface usability, so we'll be looking at the UI and the user experience. Then we have the onboarding and setup process. Number 3 with integration. And then we have guidance and feedback with the explanations that these tools provide for users. And then we have control and transparency. And last but not least, privacy and cost.
Okay, so to test how well these AI tools can handle programming challenges, we gave 2 tasks, one that's pretty simple and one that's a little more advanced. The first one is a simple problem you'd see on LeetCode early on. You write a function to check if a string is a palindrome, but there's a twist that we added to make it slightly harder. You ignore spaces, punctuation, and case. And then the second one is a little bit more challenging. We asked the AI tool to build a full to-do list web app using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It has to have a couple of things. It has to support adding a task, removing and checking off tasks. Alongside that, it should look pretty good and it should be functional and user-friendly. Here's a closer look at exactly what we asked. The Python one, again, is pretty straightforward. Write the function, make sure it works, and then explain it clearly, something that a beginner could follow. Again, very much like a basic LeetCode style prompt. The second task is somewhat more interesting. It's a full-on mini web app. Not only does it need to work, but we also ask for clear comments in the code and a short walkthrough so someone new to coding or someone who is trying to use the app could fully understand how it works and explain it to someone else.
So now we're going to get started with the tool by 2 demos. So before we begin, a few things that we'd like to say first. We have each of the 6 tools that are already set up on my computer. So we will not be showing like the exact setup process, but we'll talk a little bit about like whether or not it's easy or not. And second, in order to save time, we already have pre-saved tests in this folder, which we will run to show the results, but we will still demo the process and like demo the tools and features of each AI model.
All right, let's dive into our first tool, the ChatGPT GPT-4o model. We've determined that it's best for guided learning in a chat format. So now we're going to open it up. As you can see, a few things to note before we start the code generation is that ChatGPT is an app version and it has a website version. Today, we're going to be using the website version. And as you can see, we've entered in our called is palindrome function for Python. Before it generates the code, it gives us a explanation of what a palindrome exactly is with some test cases. It gives us an explanation of how the function works and how to check if the string is a palindrome in the first case, and it provides us snippets of the code. along with example test cases. There's also a summary about all the functions that it's used so far so that any beginner coder can come in and learn how to write it on their own. Here is the code generated. As you can see, it doesn't go into your file explorer or finder on its own. You have to copy and paste manually into your own code editor or file. Once we run it, let's see how the test cases come out. They all come as expected with our code comments. And as you can see in the code, there's a lot of code comments to see how each logic is working out. Okay, now that we've entered in our easy prompt, let's start with our hard to-do list HTML CSS prompt. We've entered this into ChatGPT already before, but we're going to do it again to show you guys. So as you can see, there's a list of a few features with the full code of each individual HTML file, and there's a link to the individual CSS file. And there's also a link to the individual JavaScript file. So not everything's all together in one. It's 3 different files that you have to enter in as a user. One thing to note is that Alex had to copy paste each individual file into the todo.html.
So something to add that's interesting is that when we first tested it with the same model, it actually gave it as one singular HTML file with inline styling and an inline scripting, but the second time it gave separate files. But let's take a look at the output.
Okay, here is the complete version of the ChatGPT GPT-4o to-do list. As you can see, it has the basic functionality with the add task to check if it's complete and to delete it if it's done and if it's no longer required. Its UI is, I would say, decent with a few colors here and there, but nothing much. So in the end, after testing out these 2 prompts, we've determined that its interface usability is a 9 out of 10 with clean conversational background and setup. Its onboarding and setup is a 10 out of 10 since it's instant in browse with really fast generation time. Its IDE integration is below par with 4 out of 10 because you have to manually copy paste every single line of code into your own file. Its guidance and feedback is a 10 out of 10 because it's very thorough and contextual with detailed explanations and code comments about the functionality, and a beginner coder can easily come in and review these comments and type it right in their own code. For control and transparency, we've determined that it's a 7 out of 10, and its privacy and cost is a 7 out of 10 since it's free with limits. However, it's very cloud-based and it costs more for expensive models and API usage.
A little side note on the integration part of this, you can actually download the ChatGPT app and download the ChatGPT extension in VS Code, in which in that case you can apply your code in a specific file. However, that does require, I think, the pro version, and you need to do some more installation stuff. So we didn't really talk about that in the IDE integration part.
Okay, let's look at ChatGPT. Look at GitHub Copilot actually trying to do this now. So first and foremost, you go into your VS Code IDE, and then we click the GitHub Copilot icon. Now, what Alex is going to do is he's going to go into the README and get the prompt and then put it in. And once he does that, you'll notice that Copilot takes a bit of time actually working on it before it actually starts out giving any of the code back or any response. One thing to note is that you are able to use multiple models, and the model we're using for this is Claude Sonnet 3.7. So first and foremost, we see it define what a palindrome is, and then straight jump into doing it, as well as how it's actually working and using the function. And it gives a full explanation for how it's working. So now when we go to text it, it should actually work right out of the box. And we notice that everything gives the expected value when we're looking at it. Now let's look at the hard prompt with the full stack web app. And at the same time, while we're waiting for it, let's talk about a couple other things. So one thing to really note about GitHub Copilot is since it's in the IDE, it gives a lot more customization. For example, you're able to add context and what you want to do and what you want to reference when it's actually writing the code, as well as there are custom commands to help with the workflow. Not to mention, there's edit history in case of problems where you can look at where the problem started and how to fix them. As well as there's an inline IDE autocomplete with code review following up with it. As well as GitHub Copilot not only is an AI that's working to help write your code, it also provides integration with GitHub to help with pull requests and other interactions that make it a whole product. So we noticed it the same thing. It did all of it in one line, in one file. So we'll wait for it to finish.
One thing to note about GitHub Copilot too is that it's a bit different from ChatGPT because once you finish the code, there's actually an apply button over here where it'll automatically apply the code into the specific to your current file. And what's also really special about this is it's not just a copy and paste, but if you have an AI like modify a specific line of code in a huge file, it will automatically scan the file for you, find the specific line that like needs changes and make those changes. So that makes the job for like a programmer much easier because then you don't have to like search through your file for the specific line or specific function that you changed.
Exactly. And we tested out, we noticed the UI is decent enough. We're able to put tasks, we're able to mark them as done. We're able to delete them, which tells us that it meets all the requirements. Now let's look at what it actually did. So we kind of rated it as the best for seamless coding inside IDEs. We gave its interface usability an 8 out of 10 due to its non-intrusive autocomplete, as Alex mentioned before, where we're able to put it into specific lines based on the context of where you are. Then the onboarding and the setup. We gave it a 7 out of 10 because their setup required in VS Code, but it's inside already, so it's quite easy to do. As well, integration with the IDE itself. We gave it a 10 out of 10 because it's a native plugin. All you have to do is install the extension and you're good to go. Now, on the other hand, guidance and feedback was pretty limited due to the fact that there is no clear explanations, as well as the docs being somewhat confusing to read, so we gave it a 5 out of 10. The control and transparency you have over it is a 6 out of 10 due to the fact we're able to change the models, but we're not able to do anything a bit more than that. As well as we gave the privacy and this cost 7 out of 10 due to it being paid, but there are student discounts, and under the student developer pack, it's actually available for free.
All right, so next we have tab 9. Shelly and I are actually wearing tab 9 shirts today, and that's because this tool really represents a different kind of AI coding assistant. So tab 9 is all about, we found that it's best for lightweight, fast, and privacy focused because it runs locally, so your code isn't sent to the cloud, which makes it a great option for developers who just want more control over their data in general. So as Alex starts the demonstration, he is pasting the first prompt into tab 9, which is actually can be downloaded as an extension in VS Code. So as you can see, it gives you the implementation of the palindrome function with a little bit of a brief breakdown of it. And much similar to GitHub Copilot, it can use different models and create different testing options that you can see. And then you can see the different testing options, which makes it easier to create test plans and then manage your different tests. And then you can apply directly, and you can see as our expected outputs, it is able to successfully run the palindrome function.
One thing to note is that when I open the sidebar, it's on the left side instead of the right side like GitHub Copilot. And so I can't see the files in the File Explorer tab, which is really annoying when I need to, like, for instance, switch to a different file and then every time I have to switch back. So that's just a small like user experience issue that I noticed when testing.
All right, furthermore, after putting in the second prompt that Alex has already done over here, it gives you the pretty much functional to-do list as expected. It can delete, add, and check off items. But again, as you can see, the UI user experience is not like as good as we saw in like ChatGPT or Copilot, but again, it's generally functional like we need it to. So it meets the requirements. So overall, we did find that it's best for lightweight autocomplete with privacy, and the interface and usability is a 7 out of 10, and the onboarding and setup, since it's easy to install because it's in the extensions, 8 out of 10, but just a couple points off because it would be better if it was like on the right side. And then for IDE integration, since it is built in the terminal, we gave it a 9 out of 10 because of how easy it is to apply the file. And then for guidance and feedback, as you can see, it didn't give us as much context or explanation as a beginner would need. So tab 9 would be more straightforward if you already know what's kind of going on. So we gave it a 3 out of 10. For control and transparency, we gave it a 7 out of 10. And since it has a free version, we gave it a 9 out of 10, but you can update it with a paid version as needed.
All right, now let's transition on to Claude Code. Claude Code excels at maintaining project context, handling multi-file operations, and providing guided diffs. It runs entirely in the terminal, which is something really interesting that we haven't seen so far. Now that we've uploaded Claude Code onto the terminal, there's a section where you can enter in the prompts. So we're going to paste in the Python is palindrome prompt. As you can see, it takes a little bit longer than usual, and the token size is increasing greatly. Okay, now that is outputted its palindrome function, it gives you the option to create the file with code comments in every single line again to explain what it's doing. It gives you the option to create the file in your file explorer or your finder, which it does, and now it gives you bash commands to run the palindrome test cases entirely in your terminal behind the scenes. As you can see, the python palindrome.py function has an error because the Python isn't found. So now it's going to regenerate a new bash command with Python 3, since it's determined that Python isn't actually installed, but Python 3 is. Okay, with the output, we've seen the testing palindrome function, and the race car output, which is expected true for palindrome, is true. In the end, it provides you an explanation for beginners about what is a palindrome, the logic behind it, and how to compare it with the key features of each test case. Okay, now we're going to paste in the harder to-do list HTML CSS app. Once again, it takes a little bit longer than the other AI models that we've tested. It gives you an updated list of what it's supposed to be doing as a to-do list in lieu of the to-do list application that we have asked them to create. Right now, we can see that it's creating the HTML structure for the to-do app, which is highlighted right there in the terminal.
A few things to note about Claude Code is that it really does like everything within the terminal. So every single step that I've done so far, from running it to entering the prompt to creating the file to even running the file, has all been done natively in the terminal through Claude itself. So that's really what sets Claude apart, is that it will test the code that it writes within the terminal, being able to run bash commands. And then after testing the code, it can automatically go back and make changes and fix the errors.
Yes. Okay, now it's asking if you want to create the to-do app.html inside its file explorer or finder itself. And now it has a list of the completed to-do list and the final thing, which is a test the application functionality. Now, this is run again entirely natively, and here is your output, my to-do list. This UI is much better than what we've seen in the other AI models, with different color backgrounds, emojis, different color add task buttons, delete tasks, with all the basic functionality requirements. Okay, so in the end, we've determined that Claude Code is best for detailed explanations and long context. Its interface usability is a 7 out of 10. Its onboarding and setup is a 9 out of 10, since it's set up in the terminal and everything is being run behind the scenes, from its creation of the code to its running on the local host. IDE integration, we've determined, is a 10 out of 10 once again, since no integration is required. Guidance and feedback is again a 10 out of 10, and control and transparency is also a 7 out of 10. Finally, for privacy and cost, we've determined that it's a 6 out of 10 because it costs $20 per month.
Now we're going to go ahead and talk about Olamo, which is mainly locally hosted, so it's the best for privacy. We're running it from the terminal here. The setup is very simple, and smaller models run on almost any computer, which is great, but it's something cool to note while we're running it. You'll notice that it's not very good for long conversations, especially if you're using like an extended model. So it's only able to handle smaller models, but if you want to use larger models, per se, Maxtral or ChatGPT, you're going to have like a stronger computer with more RAM. And as you can see, it's outputting it much slower compared to other models. It first gives an explanation of what it's about to do, sort of to explain to the user what's about to happen, and then gives an explanation at the end once it's done of each functionality. And some things to note while the code is generating: it lacks built-in tools like browsing, file uploads, and image generation. But something good about it is that you can like use it to fine-tune or load custom models via the model file. And that's why a lot of developers use it like as a base for building local AI agents or chatbots, but it can't handle a lot of functionality. So let's take a look at the palindrome tool. It does it pretty well. It works, but it's just a little slower compared to the other tools. Now let's take a look at the harder prompt, which we gave it. Again, you can probably note from what you saw with the palindrome, that it's going to take a lot longer compared to the other files. It's going to slowly generate the HTML files, then the CSS styling and the JavaScript. And as you can see, unlike the previous model that we saw, it does not generate the tokens that are being used. So you're not able to tell exactly like how much chunk of text is generated already, which basically means that you can't really see real-time output, which is pretty important if you're debugging because you can see the speed and efficiency of the model. So it might not be the best for creating larger models or chatbots, but it is good for using simple tasks like palindromes if you're willing to wait a couple extra seconds. So let's just wait for this to end and we'll see. Let's look at the output.
So one thing to note is that it generated 3 separate files, as you can see, and as like the user, I have to manually create the 3 files inside the folder and then manually copy and paste each separate file in. So that's quite time consuming and annoying for the user.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's okay. It's not that bad. It has some of the functionality, but something to note, it did not fulfill the task of making it checkable or deleting a task. So all you can do is add a task, and then you can also see that like nothing is centered. So it looks like something like a first-time programmer would create. And let's talk about its actual functionality now, like the ratings that we gave it. So again, this is best for full privacy. The reason being simple, it's fully locally hosted, so it's not cloud-based. And the interface, it's pretty good because it's mostly command line based unless you use a third-party GUI. So we gave it a 6 out of 10. But the setup takes a little bit of work because you have to first manually download the models. So it's a 5 out of 10 for onboarding. And then for the page itself, it's pretty basic and the functionality was incomplete as you could only add tasks, no checking them off, no deleting. Whereas in comparison, Cloud's output was a lot better. You could do all of the functionality that was requested. For IDE integration, as you can see, you're not getting any extensions like VS Code or anything built in. You're having to have like separate files that you have to put onto VS Code and upload it. For the guidance state feedback, it's okay. It gives you the code, but it doesn't always give you the context. So if you want to learn code, this probably isn't the best tool. But if you want to get the job done, it has somewhat of a clean explanation. But it's best placed as control and privacy because it's completely local. So it's a solid 10. And then for cost, it's free. So again, a 10 out of 10.
And another thing about Olama is that it's open source. So right here, you can see that it supports a lot of models. So we actually ran like a smaller model because I don't think my computer could handle one of the larger ones. So output wise, like if you wanted a better website, you could like download like the 7 billion parameter DeepSeek R1 onto your own computer and use that. But you'd probably need a bigger computer and like that would probably take a lot more RAM than this one has, but I think the output would be a lot better. So really, we're just mostly talking about like the interface and usability of Olama, not really focusing on like the output because that's dependent on the model we're running. Okay, last but definitely not least, we have Cursor. So Cursor, as we've mentioned before, is kind of like a all-in-one type of AI IDE. It's best for common development and debugging. So one thing to note about Cursor is that it's actually a VS Code fork, right? So everything about the terminal is the exact same as Visual Studio Code, but on top of that, they've layered like an AI agent to the side, like GitHub Copilot, and there's like terminal commands with AI inside the terminal, along with a multitude of other features such as inline completion or like summarizing or error fixing. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1 between VS Code, Copilot, and Tab9. So as you can see, we can paste in the specific prompt that we want, and it will start generating a code. Similar to how Copilot does it, it has like the context on the top, it generates a code file, and then inside of that, you'll actually have like an option to apply the code. So that's really good for IDE integration if you're working in a huge workspace, like in a real project, it'll be able to automatically apply the code within a specific file, etc. So here we can accept the changes and run it. And another thing to note is that just like most of the other tools, you can choose the specific AI model that you are using. Right now, it's using Claude 3.7 because it's basically the default model for most of these. So running the code, it's very, very detailed, 20 test cases. It's very good. For some reason, it does say that 19 passed and 1 failed. And The output is very good and it's very user-friendly. The explanation is here. It basically meets every criteria that we gave it. Now on to the second task. Same thing, it creates a separate file in the root directory, and it's creating the JavaScript file here, but I think it's not following the instructions. So I pasted in the to-do list one, it's somehow talking about palindromes again. But looking at the output from the previous test where it actually did follow the instruction and without different context, it's probably one of the most detailed outputs that we've seen. So we can go live here. Again, the go live extension from VS Code, I actually imported it into Cursor. And we can see that like Claude Code is very detailed. The UI is very good. It has all the functionality and it basically includes all of the points that we wanted it to have. So overall, we found that it's best for common development and debugging. It has a lot of features. So first, for interface usability, we gave it a 10 out of 10. It's a fork of VS Code. Everybody's probably familiar with how VS Code works, and all of the extensions are the exact same. It's very clear what commands to use, what keyboard shortcuts to use, and overall, the experience was really nice when using it. For onboarding and setup, this was also the easiest setup by far. All I did was I downloaded the app from their website, and then after that, there was a button that said import settings and extensions from VS Code, and that's the only button I needed to click for everything else to be set up. IDE integration, it's its own IDE, it's a VS Code fork, so that's also a 10 out of 10. And guidance and feedback is also a 10 out of 10. There's a huge variety of models that you can use, from the Claude models from Anthropic to GPT to Gemini. So a lot of models that you can use for different scenarios. Control and transparency, it's pretty average, is 7 out of 10. And privacy and cost, there is a free version that I'm using right now, but if you want like more models and more features, there is also a paid version.
Okay, so to wrap things up, we found that different AI tools and models have different strengths in different areas, depending on what kind of tasks that you're working on. So if you're looking for a more guided learning for beginners or helping debugging, tools like ChatGPT and Claude are super helpful because they walk you through all the steps. For fast or in-editor coding that you saw earlier, Copilot and Tab 9 is great. And then if your priority is keeping everything local and private, we found that Olama is a strong option. But as you can see, finally, if you want a tool that's like the most well-rounded, something that blends like explanations, interface, autocomplete, we found that Cursor offers the most balanced experience. So we know that there's no single best tool, but it's about finding what you need for your task and priorities. And then we have a GitHub repo that you can access with this QR code, and it has all our test results that you can kind of look through yourselves. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening to this seminar. We hope you guys learned something and hopefully will try out some of these new tools yourself. And feel free to ask if you guys have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, all the speakers. That was wonderful. So we are opening up like a QA session for the audience. And if you have any questions, you can just maybe speak up or type in the chat box. I can read the question for you if you are shy. Yeah. Okay, and let's pause a little bit, waiting for questions. Yeah, we have a very shy audience today, and and I think for many people, like they heard about a lot about AI programming, but they don't know how to get started. And maybe I can ask the speakers, how did you get started? What were the pain points for beginners? How did you kind of overcome those pain points yourself? And any of the speakers, please share your personal experiences if you don't mind.
Yeah, so for me, I think in terms of using AI to code, I think when ChatGPT came out, that was like the best, newest thing on the market. Is revolutionary. So I started trying it, and that was probably the start of using AI to code. And then as more and more tools like being started getting released, like with the release of new models and new tools, then I kind of just like started testing and playing with them more and seeing how they would work. Obviously, like the challenge is that you cannot just like vibe code everything, right? In the end, AI is still gonna have like mistakes. You're gonna have to debug it yourself, and a lot of times if you're vibe coding something yourself, then it's not going to be a great product. So that's like the biggest challenge with AI and coding right now. But then again, I think it's like a double-edged sword. It's also good because then you as the developer still have to go in and manually check in and see like if stuff is working or not. Um, Personally, my favorite tool right now is Cursor. Like I told my dad, but like when I was testing it out for this seminar, I was blown away because it's very well-rounded, it's easy to use, and it's very accurate. It helps solve a lot of problems in my projects that previously ChatGPT or like Gemini couldn't solve. So that's kind of like my experience with coding with AI.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, I think for me personally, I felt like using AI as almost a second brain, perhaps, and kind of thinking it as a form of pair programming where I'm looking to accomplish a task. I'm trying to identify what things I need to do, and I kind of use the AI tools to supplement them. As well as I also kind of found it really interesting how Claude Code, I'm able to implement that into my terminal and kind of work with that at the same time, and kind of having a real workflow going on, as well as looking at Cursor, where how it's forked off of VS Code's IDE and made their own, making much more whole-rounded and much more accessible to people.
Yeah, so I have a sort of similar experience as Arnav and Alex, but the actual reason I started using AI tools was I just wanted to see how good it was at coding. So the first time, like when I was introduced to AI being able to code was with ChatGPT, and I tried it out. And at first, like I think everyone knows, like a couple years ago, ChatGPT wasn't that good at coding. If you tell it to fix something, it oftentimes either give you the same code or the functionality just wouldn't work. But fast forward to like 2025, the code is a lot better. So you can actually use it to like test out your own code or to get feedback on it, which is actually pretty helpful because it has a lot more like wide aspect of like you can use it for any programming language as opposed to just Python or JavaScript, which was really interesting to me. And then now it's like a pretty big part of like debugging, which makes the process a lot easier and more efficient.
And yes, just going off of Mrinal and Alex in general, like AI can be used a lot for beginners, not just to, again, vibe code. You can learn a lot from it. That's the whole point of why we introduce a lot of different AI tools for everyone, so that you can get like different contexts and explanations that people can kind of explore on their own. And I think that when I was learning with AI, especially in coding, it kind of enables you to do a lot more because if you don't have to no longer like focus on the specific coding aspects, it kind of allows you to add and implement like different things that you wouldn't like already do by yourself, so that if you were struggling in certain areas, it would kind of enable you to put that together so that you can get to whatever bigger picture you had in mind.
Yeah, to kind of add on to everybody, I think that another important thing to talk about, which kind of was a really big thing in my AI journey, was like the pros and cons of using it and overusing it. Like another big term that came out recently was vibe coding, and that has a really big connotation with like the negative connotation of using AI. And I think that it's really important for like AI education to make sure that while you're using AI, it should be to learn and to grow your own experiences, but rather not to copy paste or under like not you're not understanding exactly what the AI code is generating. So I think that's another big conversation that everyone needs to have. And I think these seminars are a really great start for it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I saw there were some kind of conversation going on in the chat box. Please keep the questions coming. And do we have other people with any questions? Speak out. Okay. So yeah, I do have one minor thing. As a part of the seminar, I also actually had to prepare a little bit of slides. And some people asked me how I prepare the slides. And at this time, of course, I used some AI. And let me maybe share my screen for the slides I just kind of showed in the beginning. So this PowerPoint file actually was generated by an AI. I only inputted some prompt, and the prompt, okay, and I think I will just quickly flip through this. Now I will try to see how I generated it. As I will switch to another window. Okay, there's so many windows. Sometimes I'm getting confused too. Okay. So this website I use sometimes called Jain Spark. So you see how I created the slides for today's seminar. So here's my prompt. Okay, let's go to the beginning. So if you open up this Jain Spark.ai, I think there are many AI websites like right now. There's one choice like AI slides. So I essentially typed in my prompt like this. Please create beautiful and professional slides to do the following things. Introducing our organization, introduce the current project. And here I actually put the link to the project. And also I explicitly ask the model to use the logo and the information from our official web site. Similar idea. The third part is an open today's seminar based on information from our seminar announcement link. And then the AI just started to create everything, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, I got something like on the right side. And so you can see all the kind of preview code and thinking. So right now, I think somehow the AI model internally uses like HTML to code the slide, and then I can see the preview. So it's pretty beautiful and much better than what I can do. I'm very bad at making slides myself. So and after that, you can see here's the view and the export. So then you can just download to either PDF or PPTX. And of course, I use the PPTX. Then I just made some minor tweaks. Then in the end, you saw the beautiful slides I used in the beginning of this seminar. So that's a little bit of bonus, but explicitly asked by some people in the audience before I started this seminar. So hopefully this is useful for some people. With that, and I will ask last time, any people in the audience, do you have any questions, comments about our organization and our AI for legislation project? Any questions for our speakers today? And speak up. And also for the speakers, do you have any comments, questions for me? It's time to ask me too.
Hi, this is Jain. Actually, I'm the dad of two daughters who has graduated over 6 years. One go back to Stanford for PhD, the other is still in Apple for 6 years. So recently I joined Lead Code group in church, helping the kids and young people together to brush up with lead code. And I found that it's very helpful for me to to learn what AI is able to help in collaborating and also composing, and also comparing different results and with the latest and the greatest people has done in lead code. So I use like 4 different AI tools like Grok, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and Cloudy. And also I use 2 different kind of IDEs. One is code, the other is using PyCharm. And I'm able to, using Zoom, to share just one of the IDE. And within that IDE, I can have multiple compositions of one screen is the lead code, the other is the my debugging with PyCharm, for example, and I can switch back and forth between these two without having to share different screens or have to share on my windows. And also have a PDF actually that can be generated from the markups very easily and make it very smooth. So if you guys are interested, I can I can share the my screen. Maybe not this time, some other time. We have a Zoom group. I just bought that Zoom access recently. I was using the church, but yeah, I just switched. So hopefully, we can see each other in the lead code, so we can all learn and grow, and especially using the new tools, like what the organizer has showed. I also used some new AI tools to create documentation for new startups, like yeah, how to pitch. My daughter has initiated a woman health related startup. I just tried it. It's pretty cool with images she provided. It's really look like what you just showed. It's amazing. And also if you do research, for example, you research for how NVIDIA has been working with, like Supermicro or uh, Pure Storage to uh, asking them to test for their newly most advanced technology and standard. You can quickly just use the ChatGPT or whatever to compose those and get quick informations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Um, I think I completely agree with what you said. Personally, when I was doing lead code, like a lot of times when I didn't understand like a specific algorithm, I would also use like ChatGPT, tell me like map it out or like generate some graphs on it, etc. So using AI when like learning algorithms is definitely something that I do, and like I completely like I use it a lot personally, and it's been really helpful. So yeah, if you could like send me the link to like your like leak code thingy, I'd be happy to check it out. But yeah, thank you for your input.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Mr. Wang, and do you have your contact with us? If not, and you can private send me private message. I want to connect with you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I'll put it on I'll put it on the chat in this Zoom.
Yeah, and to answer a question that we got in the chat a bit more in depth, how we use like AI for debate in the project that we mentioned is basically we have like multiple agents acting as different sides of the debate. So if you like give it a topic, then you can like, for instance, have two AI agents debate against each other, judge each other, or have like a person manually debate against an AI. And we're also using like different agents to analyze like current political stances, such as congressional bills or like legislation, etc. So our goal is kind of to like use AI to help simplify complex like political or civic ideas so that we can expand information to like young people or like the general public or perhaps some people who aren't as engaged in civics and politics. So yeah.
Great. So we have like 5 to 7 minutes left. Any more comments, suggestions? Again, you can still type your questions in the chat box if you are shy to speak in person. And yeah, I think this summer camp thing is very interesting. And if the community has the lead, I think and we can, our organization can work with those wonderful and young instructors together. And because we have everything set up, and we can accept the payment, we can rent places, and we have the expertise, everything. Yeah, I think in the end, depending on the community's needs and what we can find for the instructors, then our organization will be more than happy to bridge the two sides. Okay. Okay, with that, I think thank everyone for attending, and especially the speakers. Have a wonderful weekend, and let's keep in touch, and maybe meet next time in our next seminar or competition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye bye.
Bye. Yeah, I have my email there. So yeah.
Yeah, I saved